All right. So I guess question number one would be, is manifestation just a selfish concept? Is it only a new age concept?
So that's a really good question. And it's one that I hear a lot. And my answer is a very staunch on the contrary. Manifestation is deeply Jewish, deeply mystical, and all over Kabbalah. In fact, the very first thing that we learn in Jewish mysticism is that God created the world through speech, through 10 utterances, and that we are made in the image of the creator, known in Kabbalah as Tselem Elokim. We are made in Tselem Elokim, in the image of God, which means essentially that we too are creators and that we're here to co-create with the divine. So if we kind of imagine it like God is this macro force, right? He's the macro creator. The fact that we're made in God's image on a micro scale gives us co-creative capacities, right? But it's also important to understand that manifestation isn't about getting that fancy car, although it can be a manifestation, but that's not what it comes down to. Real manifestation from a Kabbalistic perspective is about consciously aligning our thoughts, aligning our feelings, our speech, and our action. Becoming a co creator with the creator is your birthright. Together, we'll journey into your deepest authenticity. Because the more you align with who you truly are, the more effortlessly you call in the life that you desire and deserve. And most importantly, the more you step into your soul's highest purpose. Welcome to the Manifestation Method podcast, your number one source for Kabbalistic manifestation. Here we combine the ancient wisdom of Kabbalah, modern psychology, and quantum physics to help you achieve real, tangible manifestation results with my proven Abra method. I'm Ayelet Polonsky, and I'm here to guide you on your journey of manifesting a life that is aligned, expansive, and deeply connected to your highest self through the sacred energetic mechanics of Kabbalistic manifestation. To learn how to use Kabbalistic manifestation to transform your life from the inside out, go to ayeletpolonsky.com or download the Manifestation Method app. Let's open the gates of manifestation together.
All right. So I guess question number one would be, is manifestation just a selfish concept? Is it only a new age concept?
So that's a really good question. And it's one that I hear a lot. And my answer is a very staunch on the contrary. Manifestation is deeply Jewish, deeply mystical, and all over Kabbalah. In fact, the very first thing that we learn in Jewish mysticism is that God created the world through speech, through 10 utterances, and that we are made in the image of the creator, known in Kabbalah as Tselem Elokim. We are made in Tselem Elokim, in the image of God, which means essentially that we too are creators and that we're here to co-create with the divine. So if we kind of imagine it like God is this macro force, right? He's the macro creator. The fact that we're made in God's image on a micro scale gives us co-creative capacities, right? But it's also important to understand that manifestation isn't about getting that fancy car, although it can be a manifestation, but that's not what it comes down to. Real manifestation from a Kabbalistic perspective is about consciously aligning our thoughts, aligning our feelings, our speech, and our actions with the highest version of ourselves and with our soul's mission. And I'm sorry, I don't know about you, but I don't think that's selfish at all. I find that to be so sacred.
I think also too, there's such a huge disconnect when we're in like our spiritual maturity process, going from isn't everything predestined like by God into co-creating with God. So how can we, I guess, expand that idea of going beyond isn't everything already predestined or preordained?
Yeah, this is, I feel like every question in today's episode is going to be one that we just get all the time, right? The question you're
Mm,
asking is really big. What you're asking is, isn't everything already predestined by God?
mhm,
And the answer is yes and no, right? Because Jewish mysticism teaches that there is a divine blueprint, right? But free will is also part of life, right? Free will, also known as bechira chofshit, is one of the most powerful superpowers that the Creator entrusted us with. And so the Zohar goes on to say that God desires a dwelling place in the lower worlds,
mhm,
right? And that's us co creating heaven on earth. By manifesting, we are bringing source, we are bringing the creator into our creative acts. We're bringing God from this concept up there into the nitty gritty world of Asiya, the world of action, the world, the realm that we live on here on planet Earth. And so we're not passive pawns in this cosmic game, but rather we're active participants that are shaping reality with our very intention. So,
mhm.
manifestation is really about aligning our will with God's will.
Right, and that also makes me think too, just the idea of like creating a dwelling place for God below, quote unquote. There's not really like we know up or down, like in the dimensions, just moving through different dimensions. But
Mhm.
also when we do mitzvot or like take part in certain intentional acts, it elevates the below to the above. So it's just like this constant, almost ping ponging between us and God energetically.
Yeah, 100%. And also, Kabbalah teaches that God gets to experience him or herself through us. Right? So all of the acts of kindness that we do down here, God is experiencing that kindness through us, right? Every human emotion, every success, every accomplishment, every pain, every grief, every suffering, God gets to experience that through us. So we are manifesting God through every act we do, for better or worse, every thought we think, every feeling we feel. So really it's we're bringing, like you said, God down into this world in every moment. If that's not the greatest manifestation, I don't know what is.
Amazing. And for people who were taught that God is up there, like going to this above below concept, and that we're just down here trying to follow the rules and trust the plan, how can someone begin to understand through the lens of Kabbalah God as something that you are actually part of, like in your daily life?
Yeah, so this is a really powerful and holy question, and it's one that actually lies at the heart of the Kabbalistic worldview, right? So if you were taught that God is up there and that you're down here just trying to earn God's favor or avoid punishment, right? Kabbalah actually offers a radically more intimate and empowering understanding of this concept. And that is that God is not far away. God is not some concept way out there, but rather God is inside of you. I like to call it your God particle, right? We have within us a God particle. And Kabbalah teaches that God is also not some distant ruler in the sky, right? But rather the very essence of all life. You know, the divine is not separate from creation, but rather we need to shift the paradigm from God is up there and I'm down here and I'm being judged in every moment and every action
Hmm.
into the new paradigm, which God is creation and we are birthing God in every act, everything that we create in every moment.
Hmm.
So we don't just believe in God, but rather we are rooted in God. It's a very different paradigm. It's one that takes something that we've been taught is externalized and it makes God internalized. And that's where we really start to create a relationship of divinity with our own spark of God within. And so the Zohar calls the soul in Kabbalah chelek Elokai mimal, which translates literally to a piece of God above. So
Mm,
that means that your soul is a spark of the divine, right? You're not just trying to reach God. In fact, you are a unique expression of God in this world. So the way that I like to think about it is like this: you're not a servant outside of the palace hoping and praying to be called in. No, you are royalty. You are already inside, and you are already carrying the king's DNA inside of you on a cellular level because God manifests through you.
wow.
And just as God spoke the world into being, your thoughts, words, and actions are not meaningless, but they're channels for divine light to flow into the physical world. So when you choose things like love, trust, creativity, compassion, joy, you are embodying God's presence, right? This means that you are not separate from the plan, but rather you are part of the plan unfolding,
Hmm.
and so the real shift begins with this truth: you're not here to follow the rules out of fear. You're here to partner with the creator. You're here to participate in the healing and the elevation of this world and to express the divine in only the way you can, right? You're both the student and you're the co-creator. You're both servant and sovereign simultaneously.
Amazing. And I think that goes really like flows well to our next question because I think so many of us were taught like the only direct line to God is through prayer. Like when you're a kid growing up, that's really kind of the only, I guess, communication that we understand as a kid, is just praying, like praying to God, telling God what's on your heart or mind, and just letting God handle it. And so when we're adults, that can feel almost like, I guess, like this, it's just a one-way communication, right? So, what would you say to people who are still in that mode of just communicating to God through prayer and would say, shouldn't I just pray and let God handle the rest versus becoming a co-creator?
Yeah. So I'm a big believer in prayer. Right. But I think it's really important for us to understand from a Kabbalistic perspective what prayer in fact is,
Hmm.
right? Prayer, also known as tefillah in Hebrew, is a part of the manifestation process. But I think the old paradigm has taught us to pray as though we are beggars, right?
Correct. I could not agree more.
Right? I don't think God created a nation of beggars.
Hmm.
I think if we are made in the image of God, then it's important to acknowledge that we are the sons and daughters of the ultimate king, which makes us royalty, right? Manifestation is not passive begging. In fact, the word tefillah, prayer, is a reflexive verb in Hebrew, and it actually translates to, or it means to examine or align yourself. Tefillah also, the root of it means to dream, to imagine, to envision or visualize, right? So essentially what prayer is asking us to do is not to show up to the palace as a beggar, but to acknowledge I'm already in the palace, I'm already royalty, right? And here I am when I am praying before the creator, that I'm being asked to examine myself, align myself with my dreams, with my vision, right? With my desires. So it's not just asking that we're doing when we're praying. It's transforming your inner world to match the frequency of what it is that you desire, right? God wants you to pray and to also take responsibility for the energy that you're radiating. And that's what makes the word tefillah reflexive. It's an inside out job, right? Faith and action go hand in hand. When you show up in prayer, just know from now on moving forward that what you're doing is you're examining yourself. God, you don't need to change God's mind. You need to change your mind to come to a place of acknowledging and remembering who you truly are. And that is Atzelem Elohim. That is a God particle manifested.
So, when we're manifesting, what is the difference between co-creating with God and playing God?
What is the difference between co-creating with God and playing God? Well, I would say that you're not replacing God. And that's an important distinction. You're not replacing God when you're manifesting, but rather you're reflecting God, right? Just like a flame can light 1,000 candles without diminishing its own light, right? If you imagine a candle, a flame, you can light 100, 1,000, a million other flames, and all you're doing is you're enhancing the light. You're not taking away the original spark, right? So God is that original spark, and God asks us to share his spark, to elevate his spark, to co create alongside with the creator. So God gave us the spark of creative power. And so, from this perspective, manifestation is not coming from a place of ego. Manifestation is highly devotional, right? Manifestation is saying that I trust that the same source that created the galaxies and the mountains and the oceans and the rivers and the forests and the jungles, right? That same force also placed divine desires in my heart. And I am worthy of partnering with that source in order to bring them into 3D form, into reality, right? So, here again, just to sum it up, co creation and playing God are two different things. In co creation, I am working alongside God. I'm knowing what is the role of the creator and what is my role as man or woman. And oftentimes, my role is to come into alignment with what my soul's purpose is. That is co creation. Me playing God is just spiritual ego. It's me seeing everything that I've received in my life as a result of my doing. And that is a big no no in Kabbalistic terms. God is the one manifesting. It's my job to come into alignment with the purpose, the mission that God put me here to manifest for myself and for the world.
Another question we get a lot is people who say they were raised to believe that they should only pray for God's will to be done. And is that selfish or wrong to ask for what one wants?
So I actually think this is maybe one of the most important questions people wrestle with when they start exploring manifestation from a spiritual lens, especially if they were raised in really strict, extreme religious environments, if I could say that, right?
And any religious environment too. Like it's a common theme across the board
Yeah,
that
okay.
asking for what we want can be kind of scary.
It can be scary,
Hmm.
absolutely. So I want to really unpack this question with a lot of care and depth, right? So let's start with, is it selfish or wrong to ask for what I want? The answer the answer really truly is not at all. In fact, it's spiritual to ask for what you want. Kabbalah encourages us to ask for what we desire, but not just because we want it, but because the act of desiring is part of how we relate to God directly. Okay, so when we ask for something, and really pay attention here because this is deep, right? When we're asking for something, we're acknowledging a couple things. We're acknowledging something bigger than me exists. We're acknowledging that we're in a relationship with that higher power because it requires a relationship in order to ask for something. So you're acknowledging that this relationship even exists, right? And another thing is by asking for what you want, you're co-creating. You're not just passively waiting,
Hmm.
right? And so Kabbalah says that God longs to hear your prayers. that the creator craves your yearning. And why is that? It's because your very yearning is what draws you closer to the creator. And from a Kabbalistic lens, your desire is actually the vessel through which the Creator's light is drawn into the world. So, by asking for what you want, by even having that energetic of desire in you, you're actually creating a space for God to dwell in the world of action, which is the world that we live in. Okay, so in other words, your desire is not separate from God's will, but rather your desire is the very way that God gets to express himself. And then another thing that I get asked a lot is, well, what about God's will? Like, shouldn't I just surrender if it's God's will? And if I'm surrendering, then what? Right? Why should I want what I want? Shouldn't I just
Mhm.
surrender? And the answer is yes, and. So surrender doesn't mean silence or inaction or giving up, right? Surrender means aligning.
Mhm.
And true alignment means that your deepest, truest desires are actually in harmony with divine will. And so the Kabbalists teach that there are actually two types of will. One is your ego's surface wants, right? Which are often based in fear, lack, comparison, jealousy, right? And the other type of will is the will of your soul's deepest desires,
Mhm.
which is often a reflection of your mission. It feels like expansion, it's love, it's contribution, it's connection, it's service, it's why was I put on planet Earth? And am I living up to my soul's mission on planet Earth? So, manifestation is not about forcing your will onto the world. It's about getting quiet and clear enough to know which desires are actually rooted in your soul
Mhm.
and then boldly inviting those into form, right? And then I think the other thing you said was if God has a plan for me, then what's the point of trying to manifest,
Right.
right? Or maybe that just popped into my head, but I think
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That is
So,
another big question that we get often. Yeah.
like, what's the point of trying to manifest if God already has a plan for me? And the answer is you're meant to manifest because you are the co-author of that plan,
Right.
right? Kabbalah teaches that there's a concept called hishtadlut, which translates to human effort. So the creator holds the master vision, right? Like your consciousness, your choices, your actions help shape how that master vision unfolds. So it's not one or the other, right? Divine plan and human intention and human effort, or what I call um, aligned action,
Mhm.
right? They really work hand in hand. So you can kind of also think of it like this, right? If God like God provides the wind, but you still need to set your sails. Okay? So manifestation is all about how you set your sails. It's how you say, here's what I long to co-create. If this is aligned with my highest soul's path, let it be so.
Right. And also too, like how we're talking about how all these different things in Kabbalah work together to create to make in Kabbalistic manifestation. And one of the big ones is imagination, like using your ratzon, your desire, and your imagination. Like that is going back also to instead of thinking about God from this like outside thing telling us what to do, like an outside in process, it's really an inside out process, which is something that we talk about a lot at the manifestation method. And also, when you start thinking about your desires as the keys to what you're supposed to do next to live like to really realize like that is God's will, like realizing your desires are God's will, I think is like one of the biggest growth moments and realizations our members have, just like being able to take that for themselves. Yeah.
100%. And a lot of people will come to me and say, but I don't even know what I want. Right.
Mhm.
And so the manifestation method portal that we've created, the membership, there's a whole portal within the membership that actually opens up creative outlets in your psyche
Yes.
that gives you like the clarity and the downloads to be like,
Mhm.
oh, this is what my soul's mission was here to create, which is so
Yeah.
cool. I think so many people just are like, their first starting point is, how do I know what I want? Or I don't think I want anything, or the guilt of
Yeah.
even wanting to begin with. So the whole membership
Absolutely.
debunks all of that and gives so much clarity.
Yeah, and I just also too like what I want to say to all the people out there listening to this episode who are really just at a crossroads in their life, where they're seeing their old way of relating to God is not who they are as an adult, and also being in this space of like not knowing what they want, not knowing what direction to take because they've been conditioned for so long to not want anything or to really just, accept God's will, whatever that means from whatever spiritual belief system they're coming from. Like really, really, your clarity, the more you ask to like show me what I'm supposed to do, or like be open to your own desires, like that is such also a powerful tool, just getting started with being open to saying I'm ready to ask for what I want even when you don't even know. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
big step. It's a baby step, but it's a big step.
It's a big step. It might be the biggest step because once you
Yeah.
start that step, it's like it's like a like exponential growth in the right direction.
Totally, totally. And this is a great segue for what does it mean to partner with Hashem, with God in the manifestation process? How do I go from being a passive to an active creator with co-creator with the creator?
Oh, I love this question. I would say to partner with the creator in the manifestation process really means stepping out of a passive waiting mentality and stepping into sacred collaboration, right? Really understanding and coming to a place where you know that you know that you know that you have the power to manifest a life that is epic, right?
Hmm.
So it's really realizing that God doesn't want blind obedience. God wants intimacy. Think about it like a healthy marriage or a healthy partnership, right?
Hmm.
And I would say in an unhealthy marriage, one partner wants the other to be 100% obedient. Whereas in a sacred, aligned, holy partnership, you both want true intimacy, into me see. That's what God wants. God wants to see into you, and God wants you to see into the creator. It's a
Hmm.
partnership, it's conscious participation. So, so what does it mean to be an active co-creator? Well, in Kabbalistic terms, it means aligning your ratzon, your will, with divine will, and then taking what I said is aligned action. So again, God is the source of all potential, but you are the vessel that gives it form.
Hmm.
So here's how that shift could look,
Hmm.
right? If you find yourself in a more passive role, then you're probably telling yourself, if the creator wants it to happen, it will, and I'll just wait,
Hmm.
right? But an active role would look like, if this desire is in alignment, I will show up fully.
Hmm.
I will dream. I will ask. I will visualize and act and trust and surrender.
Hmm.
Right. So, partnering with the creator really means that one, you desire what you want boldly, right? Your holy desires are not distractions. Again, they're clues to your soul's mission. Two, you're aligning energetically, meaning you are regulating your nervous system, you're healing subconscious blocks, you're cultivating gratitude, you're expanding your worthiness and expanding your vessel, right? Three, you're taking aligned action. So you're acting with intention. You're not just hustling blindly, but
Hmm.
rather you're taking clear, heart led steps towards what it is you're manifesting.
Right.
And then you're surrendering, but surrendering in the right way,
Hmm.
meaning you're doing your part and
Hmm.
then you're letting go of control. You're letting the creator into the driver's seat and you're going along for the ride, but
Right.
you're doing your part. Let
Mhm.
yourself focus on what you want and why you want it. Let that bubble up inside of you with loads of excitement, and then let God handle the how it's going to
Yes.
manifest. And last but not least, you're creating space,
Mhm.
right? This is also, in Kabbalah and Judaism, we have Shabbat. Shabbat is a time of rest. It's a time of stillness. It's a time of non doing. And that's part of the co creative partnership, right? It's not just about hustle, 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 burnout. It's about do your part and then totally let go of the steering wheel in order to create that magnetism.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're just creating burnout. You're not creating space for stillness so that the vessel can receive the results of your efforts. Right.
Right. Right. And this is actually, I think, the biggest reason. Like the question of how do I even become a partner with God? How do I even become a co-creator with God? Is the biggest reason why. Well, first of all, we created the manifestation method portal, the app itself, but also why we created the manifestation fundamentals course, because it is really the most powerful way. And it's also your hand is held the whole time through this course, going from a place of passivity to being an active creator. There's loads of courses. Like everyone who has the app, you'll know if you've taken the manifestation fundamentals course or if you're going to. We have video courses, we have audio courses, we have journal prompts that really just kickstart the process for you to start becoming more active, like giving you the tools for small little things you can do in your daily life to become a active manifester, and also really opens the portal, which is why we call it the portal, for that line between you, your intuition, and God. And it's really an amazing first step for people out there who are looking to open this door for themselves and who are ready to take this next step of going into a place of empowerment in their lives. And it's an amazing 6 weeks. Like people who have done that course, all of your courses I yell at, they've always had like amazing transformative experiences. And the manifestation fundamentals course is just an amazing first step to get people from the passenger seat into the driver's seat with God. And also, too, another big question we get is just about suffering or the role of suffering. So many of us are so used to suffering in life and feeling that life is happening to us, not for us, because there's this idea that suffering is somehow more holy than having the life you desire or abundance or love. What would you say to those people who are still in that mindset?
I'm not sure where things got lost in translation, over the millenniums.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
because ultimately, I see suffering as a portal, or it may be a portal, but not as the destination. And I
Hmm.
think that distinction is important, right? Suffering can crack our hearts open, and it can and often does deepen our compassion. And suffering also can and often does call us closer to source, right? Because
Hmm.
it's the space where we really cry out. In fact, like Rabbi Nachman, the Jewish sage, says, there's nothing as whole as a broken heart, because it's in our brokenness that we seek a relationship with the Creator.
Hmm.
But in Kabbalistic terms, suffering is not glorified as like a spiritual badge of honor, right? We're not here to be martyrs. In fact, we're taught that we're here to be a or lagoim, a light onto the nations. And I don't know about you, but when I'm in my suffering, I am not good at being a light, right? Like, how can we be a light to others if we're burning out in silence, if we're drowning in shame, if we're starving ourselves in joy, if we're, right? God doesn't ask us to shrink or to suffer in order to prove our worth,
Right.
right?
Suffering can cause a lot of resentment also.
And it can cause a lot of resentment depending on what the suffering is, right?
Yeah.
But absolutely, it can cause victimization. I don't know. I can't be in victim and also be a light for others if I'm
Right.
in that space of suffering. And
Mhm.
also, I mean, this is all over Torah and Kabbalah and Judaism is a path of simcha. It's a
Mhm.
path of joy. Right? Joy and suffering. I don't know. I've never seen someone who can simultaneously be in both energetics at the same time. Right?
I think yeah, I think also too like we forget like pain and suffering are two different things. Life is painful. There's a lot of like pleasure and pain are two sides of the same coin, right? But suffering is something that is very self-inflicted.
Yeah, and also like not to say that we're not allowed to suffer. Yes, I
Right.
know there's
Or
like a
go through
Buddhist
hard times in life.
and it's also, I'm sure, a Jewish saying that says pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, right? Like
Mhm.
to your point. And there's going to be times where we're in pain, and there's going to be times where the pain is so big that it feels like suffering,
Right.
right? But we're not supposed to wear that suffering as a badge of honor. Like, look at
Mhm.
my suffering and how holy it is.
Right.
Right? No, like Judaism is a tradition that's rooted in shalom, which means wholeness. It's
Mhm.
rooted in wholeness, right? And at the core of Kabbalistic teachings is the blueprint for healing and elevating the world. And I don't know, you can't repair the world if you feel unworthy of that, right? You can't uplift others when you're constantly self-deprecating or running
Mhm.
on empty.
Mhm.
So the desire for abundance, for love, for beauty is inherently not selfish.
Mhm.
Again, it's sacred. It's the soul remembering its birthright.
Right.
And when we're aligned with our deeper purpose, desire becomes the divine spark that fuels creation.
Mhm.
So, no, no, suffering is not holier than desire.
Right.
Holiness is found in the courage to receive, I
Mhm.
believe. It's found in the ability to open your hands, open your heart, open your life, and say, yes, Source, yes, God, I am ready to live in overflow so that I can give from a place of overflow.
Right, right. Oh, I think also too, suffering is such a great topic, and it's also such a fun mind trap that our mind likes to keep us in, right? Like when we learn about certain mind traps that we and tricks that we play on ourselves, it really protects us sometimes to play small instead of for asking what we want and going big. And like, 'cause that can be a lot scarier than staying in the suffering loop, which we know.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, we have a whole episode on the upper limit. Maybe we can link it in the show notes.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like how we play small because we're afraid of our own greatness.
Oh my gosh.
It's a real thing.
Ugh, okay. And um, we also talk a lot about imagination, the power of koach hamidameh, the power of imagination in Kabbalah. What are some practical steps? Like I said before, this goes along with what we were talking about before with people not even knowing what to ask. Like sometimes as grown-ups, that part of our brain is so shut down, imagination. So what are some practical steps that you can use and like on a daily basis to start opening the window of imagination and start manifesting the life that we desire and deserve?
Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, yes. I love this. Like for me, I'm such a visionary and
Hmm.
I really do bless my parents and thank my parents for not squashing my dreams. I think a lot of us really have this experience where we're taught when we have these like desires, these goals, these visions. I want to grow up to be an artist, or I want to grow up to be a movie star, or a singer, whatever. Where our parents will come in and say, okay, that sounds nice, but let's be realistic.
Hmm.
So koach hamedameh is really the complete opposite of what it means to be realistic, even though there's so much realness in koach hamedameh. Koach
Hmm.
hamedameh in Kabbalistic terms translates to the sacred power of imagination. It's our
Hmm.
ability to visualize. And in Kabbalah, this isn't just talking about fantasy or daydreaming. It's a spiritual faculty of the soul, right? It's the same force that the prophets used to receive divine visions. And so your imagination is not childish, but
Mhm.
rather it's creative technology. I spoke a lot in depth about this in the previous episode, like the part one to this
Mhm.
episode, and maybe we'll plug that one as well, because it really unpacks the power of visualization. Like if you can visualize it, it already exists in the quantum field. It already
Mhm.
exists, according to quantum physics, in the field of infinite possibilities. So koach hamedameh goes alongside what's called koach hamoshech, which is the law of attraction, the force that draws something towards you. And
Mhm.
visualization is the force that draws your vision, your desire, your dream into your 3D reality. Because when you activate your imagination with intention, you begin to create on the inside what you want to experience on the outside. And that's really the first step, or one of the first steps to all true manifestation processes. So how do, like, for those of you who are listening who are like, okay, but how do I start using imagination like practically? Okay, so I would say, very simply put, outside of the manifestation method
Mhm.
membership, because there I have tons and tons and tons of recorded visualizations for you. But for starters, if you're not part of the membership yet, or you're not ready to jump on, what I would say is, before grabbing your phone, take 2 to 3 minutes in bed and see when you wake up in the morning, right? And
Mhm.
see and feel the version of you that's already living the life that you desire. So, in that vision, get as detailed as you possibly can. What do you look like? How do you speak? How would you speak to yourself in your highest glorified version of you, right? Who are you with in this vision and how do they make you feel? Are there any sounds, colors? Get as vivid as you can possibly get. In this vision, see in detail what it is that you're creating. And then the real trick here is to let the feeling lead, right? Emotion is what programs your electromagnetic field of information that then activates koach hamoshech, the power that draws towards you. And your emotion is the glue that anchors your vision into your nervous system.
Ooh.
So, I mean, again, I go through this step by step by step in the manifestation method portal, which we're linking below. And
Mhm.
we made it super affordable and put in like the best of the best of the best of my hypnosis, my activations, my attunements, my courses, because I know a lot of people, they're not necessarily well versed in manifestation. I've been a student and teacher of manifestation for nearly 2 decades now.
Mhm.
So I pull from so much different ancient wisdom to create this portal for you. So it really is me coaching you and holding your hand in your manifestation process. And actually, I should say that the hypno activations is my favorite tool, and it's at the
Yes.
core of what I teach inside the membership, because
Mhm.
these sessions use hypnosis, NLP, excuse me, hypnosis, NLP, and visualization to actually bypass the critical mind,
Mhm.
and it installs new beliefs, new images, new emotional states that go directly into your subconscious and your nervous system. And
Mhm.
within the portal, I've created activations for love, abundance, safety, forgiveness, trust. There's ones to help overcome fear and anxiety.
Mhm.
There's ones to help you sleep better at night. There's shadow work. There's inner child work. There's somatic work. And if you don't know what some of this stuff is, you'll know once you enter the membership. So, you know,
Absolutely.
ultimately, the membership and all the content within it takes you from a place of just constantly thinking about what you want, which is what most of us are doing. We're
Mhm.
wanting the things, but
Right.
once you go through the portals, you actually become the embodiment of what you want.
And also too, if that sounds familiar, like thinking about what you want, you can also know that you're in that group when instead of versus really visualizing and manifesting what you want is thinking like, ugh, like, why can't I just live the life I want to live? Like, you're always thinking about some other version of your life that you want to have. And you have this constant feeling of like, ugh, like, why can't I just get there? Why am I just not there? That is like a really good indicator that you are in the thinking about what you want versus the actual manifestation process of what you want. And so again, the manifestation method portal is a really amazing opportunity to bridge the gap from just thinking about it to actually creating it from the inside out and making it happen.
Absolutely. And like one of the greatest offerings that I have in the app for especially for those of you who are looking to manifest your soulmate or your partner,
Mhm.
right, is the actual methodology and hypno activations that I used to manifest my husband in just 21 days. Right. And I've seen this work for so many clients. They'll manifest their soulmate within, a few months, let's say, of doing this
Mhm.
work. Sometimes they manifest it while they're in the portal, which is really cool. But
Mhm.
but it really activates your koach hamedameh, your ability to visualize, and it also
Mhm.
activates your koach hamoshech, your ability to attract that which you want into your life.
Amazing.
So to sum this really in-depth, awesome, I loved recording this one. Thank you. To sum this up, the next time you wonder, am I allowed to want this? Remember that desire is not a distraction. It's not a bad thing. It's a doorway. It's a spark of the divine that was placed in your heart for a reason. And remember that you're not here to beg for crumbs. You're here to co-create worlds with the creator, and that is ultimately what the creator wants.
Mhm.
So this really is your permission slip to dream big, to imagine vividly, and to manifest unapologetically. Because when your desires align with your soul's truth, you you begin to live in your prayer. And so I'd love to leave you with a blessing. May you trust the wisdom in your longing. May you feel God not as a judge above, but as a presence within. May you have the courage to ask and the faith to receive and the strength to surrender to something even greater than you ever imagined. And may your life ultimately become a masterpiece of divine partnership. It is
Mm.
so. If you enjoyed this episode, let's keep the conversation going inside the Manifestation Method Portal app, your number one destination for Kabbalistic manifestation. Inside, you'll unlock the secrets of manifestation through my proven Abra method, rooted in Kabbalah, psychology, and quantum physics, designed to help you manifest real, tangible results from the inside out. Join our global community of manifestors, explore our signature courses, monthly live manifestation workshops with me, Ayelet, and access our transformational hypno activations and attunements to rewire limiting beliefs and align with your soul's purpose. The app is available now on the Apple App Store and Google Play. To sign up, head over to ayeletpolonsky.com. Becoming a co-creator with the creator is your birthright. Let's manifest the life you desire and deserve together.